All right, we are live. All right, let's dive in. We started 1 minute early. If you see me looking up to the right, this is for the audience because I already told the guests. Yeah, I'm just making sure. Okay, we are live. Fabulous. Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to this YouTube live. My name is Michaela Brown, and I am the host of the podcast, Michaela Unmuted. And this season is called Beyond a Mammy Mule and Maid. And the reason why it's called that is because in these episodes, I explore the lives, the inner journeys, and the identities of Black women specifically, especially having them tell their own story outside of every other societal expectation, familial obligation. It's Black women ostensibly telling their story. I have two guests today. What we're going to be focusing on is episode 3. If you haven't heard the episode yet, absolutely no problem. But if you're interested after hearing this live, the episode is available on all podcast platforms. What you will see as we talk to these two guests, there are common themes in this episode, and they are really around ideas or stories of suppression and survival and being of service, first to others and then yourselves. We, as Black women, very much know that we are celebrated for our overwork and our output. Even when we think of people like Beyonce, one of the things we love about her is her perfectionism and her work ethic. And so a lot of the Black women that we see in popular culture are Black women who work so much. What I've really loved this past week and been inspired by was Megan Thee Stallion taking a break from Broadway early, also going dark. I think she's a beautiful model for Black women, overperforming Black women, successful Black women, that respite is okay, rest is okay, taking care of yourself and your heart is okay. And you will be similarly inspired by the two guests that I have today. If you've never listened to a podcast episode or done a YouTube live or gone to one of my YouTube lives, let me give you a little background. So I am telling the story of Black women using the framework of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. If you've never heard of him, he's a mythologist who basically studied hero stories from all over the world, and he found the common thread, and he broke it up into steps that almost every superhero goes through. These two women in front of you are superheroes who have gone through these steps. And in this episode, we focus on step number 3, which is the refusal. When you think about it, every major superhero story, there is a moment when that superhero is called to be bigger than they've ever been before. And their first instinct is, wait, hold up. You mean me? No, thank you. But the reality is, when you're a Black woman and you experience this third stage of refusal, it's not only the imposter syndrome within yourself, it's also the expectations of survival that sometimes makes your higher calling feel impossible. And so as we listen to the stories of these two beautiful guests who will introduce themselves to you in a moment, we will learn about how they navigated that refusal, pushed past it, and ultimately honored themselves. One last thing before we dive in. Please, please, please use the chat. I'm recording this on my phone. I have my laptop right in front of me, so I will be seeing your comments. We'd love to hear what you're thinking, where you agree, where you disagree. It's all welcomed. And the last thing I'll say is if you hear one thing you absolutely like in this live, please give me a like. If you hear 2 things, maybe consider subscribing. And if you hear 3 things, please tell of someone that you love, a friend, a family member. Trying to build this community with like-minded Black women who feel as impassioned about these topics as I do. So now I'm going to turn it over to my 2 beautiful guests so they can introduce themselves, and then I'll launch into some questions. Who wants to go first? Oh, one last thing. You might hear me refer to Michaelle as Mustard because that's my nickname for her. So I am not talking about the condiment. I am 100% talking about her. That's a story for another day, but I probably will call her Mustard. So who wants to go first?
That's a segue.
You're right, right? Yeah.
Okay. My name is Michaelle, aka Mustard. I was gonna mention that. Yes, I'm a social worker. If you listen to the podcast, I'm in my late 20s. Yeah, she, her.
Thank you for giving your pronouns.
Yes, Lysandra, she, her pronouns. I'm a, what did I say, multidisciplinary storyteller, musician. As of next Friday, official graduate of NYU Tisha School of the Arts. We're done. Last assignments went in yesterday, and yeah, just out here creating, writing, ideating. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So one of the reasons why I loved this episode so very much, you know how as Black girls, we're always like, the inner critic is so loud. And so one of my inner critics around the podcast is I'm saying that I'm committed to an intersectional story, but really my intersectionality has really focused mainly on gender and race. And intersectionality, we all know, means so much more than that. And so what I loved about telling your story is I get to bring in different complexities to a Black female identity. So like Mustard, you're a member of the LGBTQIA community, identifying as queer. Yes, 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 yes. And Lysandra, you shared that you were neurodivergent, you're neurospicy. And so the first question I have for the two of you is, how do you think Mustard, you being queer, and Lysandra, you being neurodivergent, creates a difference in your experience as a Black woman, given someone who is more majoritized, someone who identifies as, cis hetero versus someone who identifies as neurotypical? So whoever wants to answer that question first, please go ahead.
Yeah. Also queer. And so I think it's a great question. Yes. We didn't, yeah. I've not been dating recently too. So I'm like, but it's still like this othering, or not even an othering, just like another, I think, divergent way of just like living in the world. And it's funny, I was just catching up with a friend. We're bi-coastal friends now. She lives on the West Coast, about this as well. And just like even getting through this grad program on many spectrums with no Adderall, and we made it. But like, I feel like so much of it, I mean, it's a gift in so many ways, because the systems that can keep us confined, like my brain just does not work that way. So when we're taught, especially as like Black women, to make ourselves smaller, or just like put on the happy face, put on the smile, like just be polite, do the things, I'm like, no, my brain, I don't know how to fake it. Like I cannot fit inside those systems that tell me that this is the way that it's supposed to go. Like it can be like overstimulating, overdrive, just this like I don't see the world that way. And so I think there's such this, I don't know, like broad strokes of, I think of different colors even with the spectrum, like not even just areas of gray, but I'm looking at your bookshelf, even Michelle, like there's the yellows, there's the reds, there's like, I'm all over you. I just can't fit inside the boxes that are put around us. And I feel like more so in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, I've found more spaces that are kind of like normalizing that. I don't know if that's been your experience too, but like what felt like, oh, I'm just not grasping these concepts. Like undergrad for me was really hard. I forget if I talked about this in the episode, but like undergrad for me was really hard in terms of how my brain worked. And coming with a new perspective in grad school, it's been like, oh no, I can advocate for my needs, and I can advocate for the different ways that my brain functions, and even how I process like emotions and live in the world. And yeah, I think that's it's a strength more than it is a hindrance now these days. Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Mustard, before she moves on? So Lysandra, do you think it makes it easier for you to not get boxed in typical Black women identities because your mind can't even default to that?
Yeah. And I will say it wasn't always that way. I'd even say like 10 years ago, I don't know if some things were normalized. I don't know if it's just even the spaces I find myself in online, like Substack community being like this rebirth of all the Tumblr girlies. Like it's like, oh, okay, we're here. Like we don't have to do it this way. I feel like there's some sort of renaissance, if I will, that I feel like is happening with a lot of Black women, where we're like, no, we're not these cookie cutter images. And yeah, I do have like 10 hyphens of hobbies that I can monetize, and okay, I'll drop 2 and now it's 8. Like we get to reinvent ourselves and play. And I'm noticing that more, I think, in the past like 5 years, in a way that I felt like I had to fit into the boxes like 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Shout outs to Substack.
I love Substack. I will drop mine in the yeah.
Can you put it in the chat?
I was like, yeah, I'll put my link in the chat.
Yes, please. I want to read your stuff. Yeah, so I think what Lysandra said is about like being in a box. I feel like when being queer separates me from whatever's going on in this box. And so I think we talked about this in our first conversation, Michaela, just being like, oh, there's like the standard, we're like, oh, the black woman next to the strong black man, and like creating this family and doing all this. And I'm like, don't want to marry a man. I don't want any children. So it's like creating a whole new storyline. So like not at all. Like I don't even know where the box is. I'm not near that box. I'm not in the box. I'm on a whole different area, which I think is exciting in a way that like it's just I can create whatever type of situation. Like I can envision whatever I want, and like I think it opens it up because no one likes being put in a box. But it's exciting to be like, this is what this could look like. Just imagining what I would want for myself and being like, this is nice. Like this could be that, or this could not be that. Like just, I think it's a lot. It's very open. And I think someone who may fit in a more stereotypical, like a heteronormative situation may like feel put in a box and like feel like more pressure to like do things in the way it's supposed to go, in a way that I wouldn't feel that, because I'm like, I'm not even following any of the rules, the societal rules. So like it's easy to just do what I want to do and like feel happy and excited to stay in my area.
I think for me as an exennial, I love hearing you all talk because I think some of this is generational. I don't know if women my age when they were your age would feel as free as you do now. And so I think that's also really, really beautiful. Before we dive into some of the differences in your generation, the next thing I want to talk about is religion. It's funny because this podcast has been so divinely ordained talking about religion, in the sense that I don't pair guests up. Just kind of organically every month as I go to edit, I like organically, I just know to put two people together. And there were so many beautiful overlaps between the two of you as guests. And the first one was that you both grew up in really religious homes and family. So we just had this conversation where you're divergent, right? You're different from the norm. And when we think about religion, it's so much about obedience, conformity, behavior. Behavior that is set by an expectation of someone outside of yourself, whether that be God, your pastor, your parents, whatever those things are. I'd love for you all to talk a little bit about how growing up in very traditional religious homes impacted you, and if you think your journey would have been different if you weren't raised in such religious homes.
That's a good question.
I can go first.
Yeah,
go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I guess to answer the part where I think it would be very different, if I didn't grow up very religious, I think coming out would have been a completely different situation. Even like internally, I think I still am like, oh, like I feel like there's still a little bit of like, dang, like should I be doing this? Like, and that's not stopping me at this point. I'm just like, it's still just like this ingrained somewhere in me where I'm like thinking about it. But if I wasn't raised in that way, I wouldn't be having these like doubts in that sense, or these like thoughts, which like I'm like, oh, I'm here, I'm queer, like this is how I am, it's great. But I think still like there's a tiny part of me that's still like, dang, like these people think it's wrong. And so being like, these are people like I grew up with and I like cared about, or they care about me, and being like, they think a part of me is wrong. So like there's just a constant like, battle in that sense. Where I think if it wasn't as strict and like these are the rules and this is what needs to happen, those feelings wouldn't exist. It would just be like, okay, that's it.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting when you say that. So I identify as heteronormative, cis hetero, right? But I went to Catholic school for 12 years. And even now at 47, some of like my the Puritan ways I think about sex are so derivative of Catholic school. And even though I know better in so many ways, it's like a chip they put in you that you can never fully ease out. So I super resonate with this idea of like, even though I'm doing my own thing and I believe in who I am, those early teachings stick to you. And I don't know if it's indefinite. Like, I honestly don't know, but I know I have to catch it in myself more often than not, like that's the difference
Mm,
now. I realize that the voice in my head is not mine. Where in the past
okay.
I'm like, oh, that's religion. That's not
Mm-hmm.
Michaela, right? So I really resonate with that point. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I feel like mine is kind of similar. And also, I'm like, it was strict. And I think because of the way my church was set up, and I don't know, like even how my church like talked about spiritual gifts, like everybody has their gifts. And I was kind of affirmed early on that mine was prophecy, which
Mm.
is an interesting one because even the way we were taught, even in like studying our Bibles, it was always like read your Bible in its proper like literary, cultural, historical context. Like they were really strict about that. I think that backfires though when I'm then growing up, yes, with this kind of conformity of of what religiosity looks like, but also with these stories of a Jesus who is
Yeah,
very anti-system. I have jokingly told friend, like talked to other friends too, where we like, y'all, Jesus was on the spectrum. Like Jesus is very
100%.
neurospicy.
A
like we,
100%. A
if
hundred
anybody
percent.
gave me a blueprint for not to fit into a box while also trying to put me into a box, it was the Christian church. And I'm just like, y'all, no, I'm gonna flip tables. Like actually,
Yes.
my anger can look, this is good trouble. Like this is the good trouble that, yeah, John Lewis was from John Lewis to Jesus. Like it is what it is.
Yes.
And so yeah, it was like trying to break out of the, again, I like how you say, Michelle, like I don't even know where the box is. I don't even know if it really exists, if it's just like a placebo that they're calling a box and it's not even really a box. But like it just didn't it two and two weren't fitting together. It's like here's what's expected of me, but then of the person who's kind of like the centerpiece of our faith, they're not following the rules. They're actually like bucking at the system and the Pharisees who are telling us to follow the rules. So like, how can you tell me to imitate this person who is, like throwing the middle finger, basically, well, whips and chains, whatever, like flipping tables in the systems, or I mean, like on all the
Yes.
systems. And so I think even within like my activism work, like Jesus taught me how to be an activist. And so it's kind of like reworking how to, I don't know, just reimagining what religion, not even religiosity looks like, but like spirituality and faith looks like, so that it doesn't fit into those systems. And I already had a blueprint for that, even if culturally being raised in the Bible Belt, especially, it was like, no, this is what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love those points. And when we think about it, his mama was a gangster, his stepdaddy was a gangster.
Truly.
Like he comes from a lineage of gangsters. Like the very first time we hear about Jesus is them breaking the mold and not following rules, right? So I love that
No.
point.
Mary's like, hey, you go fix this. They ran out of
Right,
wine. My son can do something about it.
right,
Let's keep
right.
this party going. Like,
Even
yeah.
even his delivery story, it's like they said to stay safe in one place and be quiet, and they were on the move. Like they
True.
literally
They
were
were
on the
nah.
move. So like no one in
Yeah.
Jesus' story listened to whatever, authority. All right. So
Mhm.
it's so interesting listening to you both talk because I think that Black women are often rewarded, and I said this in the intro, for conforming to the expectations set upon us. And we're also so good at meeting those expectations.
Mhm.
And and so the two of you could have continued doing what those around you wanted to do and been the best at that, and everyone would have been happy except for the two of
Yeah.
you. Another interesting overlap in the episode is that 2018 was a big year for the both of you. Like you both said 2018
Yeah.
separately. So when I'm editing the episode, I'm like, they were meant to do this together. So a
Mm.
couple different things. So Mustard, you talk about 2018 being your gayest year, which I love for you. Lysandra, like it was kind of the first year that you were like, my body is breaking down. I
Mhm.
very much need to stop doing the things that I have been doing. My body is telling me
Yeah.
no, even though my mind is saying I can do it. And so that I went to research what was happening in 2018 to see what kind of environment you all like had these revelations in.
Yeah. I'm like, let's
And
get into the astrology of it.
right, right. Oh,
So
I should have done the
I can.
astrology.
I
Oh,
will.
I
No,
wish
I
I had
will
done the
tell you.
astrology.
I know exactly what was going on
Okay, good.
astrologically
I
for me
want
in
you to say
2018. Yeah.
because Black Panther came out that year.
Oh
And I feel
yeah.
like that was such a big year culturally for Black people in America,
Mm.
dressing up and going to what like it made us and it introduced Afrofuturism to a lot of
Mm.
people who didn't have the name for it. So it's so interesting that the two of you began to envision a future for yourselves differently when
Mm.
this kind of like futuristic understanding of what Africa and Black people and Black royalty can mean. But Lasandra, tell
Absolutely.
us what astrologically was happening in 2018.
So yeah, Michelle, I'm curious about your chart, but I know for me, 2018, and actually this is kind of full circle because this planet just left a week or two ago. But 2018, Uranus had just moved into Taurus, and so wherever Taurus falls in your chart, we could talk about it. Uranus had just moved into Gemini like 2 weeks ago. But for me, Taurus is in my 10th house, which is like public
Mm,
career, public facing life. And
mm,
Uranus is a planet of like shaking things up and being like, this isn't working. Let's see what happens if we just shake it up. And so yeah, I was dealing with
crazy.
hypertension at work and like this type of activism is not sustainable. How do I redo things? And yeah, and to come back like full circle now, yeah, it stays there for about 7 to 8 years to like be in a completely different, like at least be thinking about public work and life, especially finishing this program. I'm like actively applying the jobs. I'm like, or just trying to find clients. It's like, okay, how do I approach this differently in a way that's not going to lead to the burnout that I had like really, really bad in 2018. But I totally forgot about Black Panther. That was
Isn't that
an
amazing?
event. Yeah.
What I really love about what you're saying is like the cycle. So the way that
Mm-hmm.
Joseph Campbell outlines the hero's journey, it's very linear and it's very like you close it, like it takes your whole life and at the end you get it right, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm simplifying what he's saying. But I think what's when we revisit that work, one of the things we have to acknowledge when we modernize it is that life happens in cycles, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of love that like 2018 was that beginning of that cycle and now is this year is the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
becoming a hero to yourself, you have to do that over and over and over again. And like you start at the beginning, you work your way to the end, and then you level up, and then you're back at the beginning again. So I think it's very interesting that you're now at the beginning of a new cycle and what that will mean for
Yeah.
you and how you'll work. There's still anxieties, right? Like you're not half as anxious as you were in 2017, but there's
Yeah.
still, what do I do next? How do I do that? What does it mean for public life? What is my next reinvention that comes with
Mm-hmm.
anxieties? And you begin the cycle again, but with greater tools and more experience, which is awesome.
Yeah. And it's so like part of the body too. Like Taurus is very sensual and not even just Taurus. So like Taurus, Scorpio,
Mm.
Leo, and Aquarius. So if you have prominent anything in those four, that's probably what you were feeling since 2018 with Uranus. Yeah.
You're speaking another language right now. I don't know what you're
Oh,
talking
right,
about.
right. Okay, we're not astro girly.
Look,
Noted,
yes.
noted.
No,
That was
I
for the
Um,
didn't.
astro
We could
girly.
put
That was for
into,
the astro.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm familiar with all those words. Put
It's
all
like, I know
together,
some
I'm
of
not
these.
sure. And I don't have any particular relation with
Mm,
the ones you named.
yeah.
So yes, so I don't know what was going on particularly. Besides that stuff that you
Yeah.
just mentioned, that sounded magical. um, but for me, I think it was ended up like the end of 2017 was like new and exciting. I
Mhm.
don't really remember what went on, but I think someone said online somewhere like, "Oh, 2018." And so
Yes.
that's why I was like, yes, 2018, 2018.
Mm,
And I just like I was really outside. I was like going to different like queer events. I was meeting so many queer people. That's like when I built my queer community. Like I still have them. Like I was just doing the most.
And you were
So
still
yeah.
living with your religious family at that time, right, Mustard?
Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah.
was like living like two lives. So maybe that's
Yeah.
somewhere in the astrology something. um but I was like going out doing whatever and then coming back to these people and living. It was like a double life,
Mhm.
truly. Um yeah, but it was a good year.
So, picking
Mhm.
up on kind of that family life, one of the things that I loved when I interviewed you first, Mustard, was you were raised by a woman that was 46, who had you when you were 46, and I'd love for you to tell a little bit of your origin story
Mhm.
there. But I think
Um
what's so powerful is that I think there's gonna I'm 47. I haven't given up plans on having my own family. I know a lot. I live in New York. I know a lot of Black women in their late 40s, some in their early 50s, starting a family. And I have grappled with this feeling of what will my child miss out on because I didn't have them traditionally younger, right? And one of the first things you ever said to me was your ACE score. So for those of you who aren't familiar, an ACE score is your adverse childhood experience score. It's basically a score of like all the trauma you experienced as a child. And it's from 1 to 10. Am I correct, Mustard? It's from 1 to 10. I think it's from 1 to 10.
I thought it goes to like 20 or
Oh, does it? I think it's 1 to 10
I
because
should know
my
this.
number is 8, and I remember being like, "Damn, like why is mine at the top?" But like, what was your number? What was your number,
I think
Mustard?
when I've done it, it's like 0 or 1, whatever the lowest number is.
And you talked a bit to me, and I'd love for you to share this here, especially if there's some Black women who are watching this who are going to have their children untraditionally, how that benefited you. I'd love for you to talk about the story of your mother and your birth mother, but also how you benefited from having a non-traditional mother at, raise you.
Yeah. Well, my mom was 46 when I was born. Well, she was 45, but then she turned 46 2 days later. She was
Okay.
46.
Oh, is your birthday? Are your birthdays 2 days apart?
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Your birthday gift. I love that.
Basically a birthday gift. And so my birth mother, she, for whatever reason, was unable to take care of me and was like a part of this family. Was like kind of raised by my mom because she's like 20 years younger than her. So my mom kind of raised her. So when she got to being 22, when I was born, she gave me up. She said God, told her that I was a gift for my mom. And so when I was born, I came straight to the Bronx, straight to my mom, and like that was home. And so I don't have an experience with like a young mom, so I don't really know what goes on with the younger parents. But I feel like everything was very much stable. Like she was in her career, like she knew what she was doing. It wasn't a struggle, which I mean, obviously older adults can struggle still, but I think there's definitely, she had a handle on things much more than I would imagine someone's younger. Like if I had a kid right now, in my late 20s, I think it wouldn't be the most stable situation. Like I have a job and like housing and all that, but like it may still be rough. Because I may, move around. I like the freedom of, maybe I want to switch into a different area of my career. Where she was like locked in. She's locked into her job. She's like, I'm gonna stay here till I retire. Like that's it. And so seeing that stability and having that stability was very nice. And I think it gives me the confidence that I have where I'm like, I know what's up. Like this is what it is, and that's it. Where other people are like, there may be a little more, I don't want to say questioning, but I guess a little bit insecure in certain situations as far as like decision making and things like that, where I feel like it was very clear what she was doing, what next steps she was taking, like what was happening. And so that I feel like that taught me how to like make decisions and being like, I can be clear on what I want and like what I should do next. And I can just take those steps, because as like an older adult, someone who's more stable, you know like what you can do, what you can't do.
Yeah.
And so you're able to be like, I'm going to do this. And then you're able to do it. Where some people who may be younger, like they want to do things, but like may not be able to because of whatever reasons. And so I think seeing her being like, okay, this is what's happening, and then doing it, I then gained that where I'm just like, I want to do this, and then I do it, and that's it.
That's beautiful. That is so. Lysandra, I want to talk a little bit about your childhood, and then we're going to get into your adult coming into yourself. But one of the things that really resonated for me with your story, and I think a lot of Black women it resonates for, especially academic Black women, is there was domestic violence in your house when you were growing up, and then you ended up working for domestic violence organizations and shelters for years. I think a lot of Black women occupationally and definitely academically, like all the Black girls I know who have a dissertation, we all talk about how like your dissertation is really yourself. Like you're writing your dissertation about the parts of your identity that you need to figure out and explore. And so I'd love to talk a bit about how you got drawn into working for domestic violence. And do you, to some degree, feel like you were trying to save yourself or people like you? Like what was that correlation with your personal connection to domestic violence?
Oh yeah, it was definitely connected. So I started working with in fact, got connected to an organization in my undergrad my undergrad university had like a relationship and sexual violence prevention center that was called the RSVP Center for short. And I got connected because of a classmate's experience with domestic violence and she was an older woman. And so it also like triggered some things with my mom. And I was like on the phone with my mom and like crying and thanking her for leaving and just a whole thing. And remember going to I had like work study at our campus Black Culture Center, and I was like went to my supervisor and was bawling. I was like, this thing happened with my one of my classmates. He's like, oh, he pointed me to the RSVP Center, and then I organized an event with them and then got connected to like their campus peer educator program. So I was that person going to the fraternity and sorority houses, organization meetings, like, here's how we prevent violence on campus. Like that person, like do a green dot, which yeah, at the time it was called Green Dot. And then from there got connected to a local shelter in the college town that I went to, and then worked there for like 3 years. And so I think at the time I was like much more explicit, like, yes, this is in direct correlation to what I witnessed growing up and like wanting to make a difference and like, yeah, just be on the other side of things and help in any way I can. And then over time, depending on like what the work looked like, of course, it started to shift and change a bit. And I remember actually, again, 2018, Thanksgiving, telling one of my aunts, because I was getting ready to, I wasn't telling them that I was sick, but like getting ready to leave the work and was looking for jobs elsewhere. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to look for something outside of domestic violence. Like, I don't want to be a poster child for it. Because my family was very much like, this is so full circle and like everything y'all been through. And now you have this career. And I'm like, I'm sick. Like, I'm not well. I'm like constantly fighting off a flu and like high blood pressure, and they don't know because it's just like you overcame these things. And I was like, there's a way that I can still talk about these issues and also be true to like one of the things that really does fill me up is creating and like making music and writing and having other ways of telling stories. And it doesn't burn me out in the same way of like just kind of feeling like we're on a hamster wheel, especially with the administration in 2018. And this was coming out of some confirmations with the Supreme Court, if folks know, in like October 2018. It was so hectic. And I'm like, I need to rethink my work and have space to imagine that something else is on the other side, and I can't do that here at least at the time. Like I need to have an imagination. Even for me, I'm in my mid-30s now, but also contemplating like solo family planning and just reminding myself like I have a community and I need to be able to sustain myself mentally, emotionally, so that I can actually, because I want to physically give birth, like this isn't gonna work. Like the way we're doing things isn't gonna work. Yeah. So I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah,
but,
it does. And there's some things I really want to amplify in that. I think that there's good and bad sides to everything. And I think there's a good side that for a lot of Black women, the work that we do is so deeply personal and it drives our compassion. I have felt that breakdown in my own life when I focus on fixing other people rather than healing myself. I realized a lot of times when I was helping other communities, I was using it as a distraction. And so when I hear you say, like, I'm still doing that work, but I'm doing that work in a way that is more honoring my strengths and my interests, that's the critical shift. And that's when the burnout happens for a lot of Black women. It's that, like, you can be in service of healing the trauma you experience, but like at the core of it, you need to be in service in healing your trauma. And if you are only focused on healing the trauma of your community and those around you, that's where the breakdown happens. And to me, that's the refusal to face yourself, the refusal to honor that you are a victim as much as the victims that you support. And I think in society, there's not often a space for that conversation. And I think because we're seen as strong, like we're a different type of victim.
That too. Yeah. I was super capable. Like I think the first time I learned about like, I don't know, like dissociative disorder, like all kinds of stuff. I might have been working with domestic violence organizations for like 5 years. And it was like, but because of how I was still showing up then, not knowing I'm on somebody's spectrum and still trying to hit these boxes, I'm reaching all my work goals, I'm answering these calls, I'm present for survivors. And meanwhile, like inside my body is decaying because anytime I'm like working, especially working with children, that's when it would like a lot would come up. I'm like, I see so much of myself in these kids who are then coming to me and they're like, I just want my parents to get along. Like, why can't we go home? And I'm just like, oh snap, I don't have a question or like an answer for them because now 11-year-old Lysandra is trying to like meet with this 11-year-old kid and I don't know that until I'm, away from the work. But yeah, I appeared very capable and knowledgeable of the issues, but it just my brain was constantly going and I didn't know that I was constantly like re-traumatizing myself, especially when I was doing like direct service work. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I want to shift now
Mm.
into overcoming the refusal, right? And so,
Mm.
Mustard, can you give some context around your refusal? And I'm talking specifically about writing that letter, a love letter to a friend, and it being
Mm.
intercepted by your family
Yeah.
and friends. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, um, I was 12 and I had this crush on one of my friends. And so I wrote a little love poem where I just wrote a bunch of compliments about her. I wrote it in my science notebook because, like, this is like our classwork. We leave it in the classroom. Like, our teacher checks all off our work every day, whatever. I don't have to take it home. So I'm like, I'm going to write it in this back of this notebook and, like, leave it there. Except the next day he finds it, I suppose, or maybe the night before, I don't know. He found it and he called my house where I was staying with my aunt and uncle at the time. He called the house and they didn't answer. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. So he left a voicemail and he was reading the poem on the voicemail.
Wait, but can I get some context? Because when I was like prepping the episode, I was like, I should have asked more questions about this. So, like, he's just was he saying like, what was the context of him reading it?
I
Like, I
think he
don't know
was just
what
like,
this means,
he was
or
like, you need to be aware of this type of thing. Like, it wasn't like, I don't know what this means, because it wasn't like anything like inappropriate. Like, I was just
right,
like,
right, right.
oh,
Mm.
her smile is like sunshine. Like, it
Yeah.
was appropriate for my age. It wasn't like I was writing
Right.
something crazy and he's like, you need to be aware of like what's going on. It was just
No.
because I was writing about a girl. I think he was like, you need to be aware of this. I don't remember like what else he said, but he was kind of like, here, like, do what you want with this information, and like reads the poem on the voicemail. Um, and they were not happy about that. So they were like, what's this about? Blah blah blah. Like, it was a whole thing. And so I was living with them because my mom had a surgery, so she like had to recover. She couldn't take me to school, and so they were, my uncle was kind of like, this is evil, like blah blah blah, like you're living
Mm.
like you want to be like this. Like, he says all manner of things, and
Mm.
kind of returned me to my mom. Was kind of like, get out, and was like, I went back to my mom,
Mustard.
but I denied all of it. I was like, that wasn't me. Like, I didn't write that in that notebook. It wasn't me.
Mm.
And I even went as far as like, because he was like, bring your notebook home, like, let's see it. I like rewrote it in a different handwriting.
Wow.
And I was like, see, like, this isn't even me. Look at the science in the front and look at this in the back. It's not even my handwriting. It's not even me. I don't know who wrote that. And
Mm.
so, and then, yeah, I stayed in the closet for until 2018, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was quite a while. That's my refusal, where it didn't go well, thanks to Mr. Science teacher.
Yeah. I also wonder if he was a female teacher. Like, there was a part of me that I was like, would a female teacher have handled that more gently?
Mm,
Like, I didn't
Mm.
know if it was some toxic masculinity that made, because
mm.
I mean, anything could have happened to you. I think that's the thing that
Yeah.
made me the most uncomfortable with it. He did not, I mean, was he a family friend? Like, did he know your family well?
No one knew this man.
So, like, he didn't know what your family would have done through his outing of you, and that level of like carelessness with the child, to
Yeah.
me, I found really, really violent. But I think what's so interesting about that story is you have a mom that loved you more than anything else. At one point, you were kidnapped. We might have to tell the kidnapping story because it's giving after school special. But like, it is so interesting because so much of the episode is so relatable, and then there's like a kidnapping in the middle. But at one point, her birth mother tries to kidnap her and take her back. But you
Mm.
have this mother that after the kidnapping loves you so much. You are such her prized possession. And she's so grounded, like you said, she's, in her 40s, 50s, raising you like so grounded, so fully evolved. And even in the space of that, this difference, probably because she was so religious, was something that you did not trust her to handle, even though she had handled everything else, which I think is such interesting dissonance, right? Like, you technically have the best mom in the world, but you can't come out to her.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. At the time, I think because she was religious, she was kind of like, this is wrong. But like at that point, I already denied all of it. So she was
Right.
kind of like, oh, okay, like you didn't do this. Like, let's get rid of that poem. And I remember like writing it in the back of my diary, like, no, I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep this for later. So like I rewrote it in like one of my little, so I have it somewhere, I'm sure. Like I rewrote it because like she made me throw it out. So like even though she didn't believe it was mine, she still was kind of like, throw that away though, like get rid of it. So there was still that. Yeah. And then since she passed away when I was 18, I never came out to her. I think I would have eventually. Cause like you said, she was great. Like she loved me down. So I don't think whatever her beliefs are, I don't think she would have rejected me over like altogether.
Do you ever regret not being able to have come out to her?
No, I think this is a good place to be like, I think she would have let me down because there's a chance maybe that she would have been like, nah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna imagine a world where she was like down for me and would have accepted everything. So yeah, I this is okay.
Yeah, I love that. But I also love that you rewrote the letter twice, because that was your own form of resistance and reclamation. Like you rewrote it for them, but you rewrote it again for yourself. So even at 12, you were still honoring that side of yourself.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna keep this.
That's beautiful. All right. So after the refusal, that for most superheroes, there's this moment where they're like, man, I got to do this. I got lightning rods coming out of my hand. I can climb the side of a wall. I just got to do this. What I think is so interesting for the two of you is that you're getting back in alignment with yourselves. We're very like subtle and soft. So like for Mustard, you like started, going out, changing your clothes, going out and doing your thing. And then Lysandra, for you, is being diagnosed with ADHD that really like turned around. But those aren't like catastrophic things, but they were catastrophic. Like they were kind of like small, but then the biggest things in your life. Can you talk about, especially for anyone watching this live, how that transition of like, no, I'm fully going to own myself now? And maybe even talk about how you own that with your community, like with your friends and family, who you picked to share that with, who you didn't, what your process was like.
I'm trying to think, like for neural spiciness, because I got my diagnosis in 2022. The biggest thing really was like navigating the workspace because I was a new director at an organization, and eventually, like within the year, I transitioned out from being full-time director to consulting. So it's like, oh, that's why it's always been hard to do 40 plus hours a week. I was good at it. We were masking, we were making it happen anxiously, but like, oh, I need to have this flexibility in how I work. Interesting enough, like I feel like the conversation with at least my mother and like family didn't happen until it's like early 2024. I had gone through a huge breakup.
Wow,
Yeah.
2 years. Why didn't
She
you tell
knew.
them? Okay.
So no, yeah, they knew, but in terms of just like really having conversations about it, and what that just looks like for me and how I've been navigating it, it came out with a deeper conversation with my mom came out like early 2024. I had a huge breakup and was on the phone with her about it because there were just things about like, I think not necessarily repressing emotions, but what's the word? Clairsentience.
Yes.
Like I can pick up very easily on it.
Yes.
Yeah. But, and I think I always had it as a kid. Like you, especially like growing up, I feel like this, I'm going to guess and say that this is a through line with a lot of Black families. Like you meet people and it's like, you be kind, say hello to everybody, everybody gets a hug. And I was always that kid that was like, I don't want to hug everybody, right. But I don't get to say why. It's just like, there's something here that isn't sitting right. That's the spectrum too, sometimes. But I was always that kid. And so that had happened with the breakup. And I remember like bawling to my mom. I was like, you used to always make me like suppress my feelings. And you said my feelings were too big and they were taking up too much space. And it was just this whole thing of like, there's some wisdom in here and really just like frustrations of like, there's wisdom in that knowing and that picking up on energies that like actually keeps me safe from people sometimes, and I don't need to detach from this. And so I think on like a relational level, I started normalizing like talking about like neurodivergence in relationships once I had that conversation with my mom, even though I had been already been talking about it for 2 years in workspaces. So it's kind of grown. And then even from there, like it's been helpful talking about it with friends who are like, wait, I think, oh, you said it's this, that's a pattern and that's a symptom and that's a,
Wait a minute.
I might need to talk to somebody too. And now, yeah, it comes to find, you find out some of your closest friends. It's like, oh, that's how we found each other. And we just didn't know it. We've all been putting on this mask. It's like really high functioning, high achieving Black girls who are low key, like really tired and trying to, our
Mhm.
brains have always been trying to find ways to just do things differently. And same, like all of us having like really interesting relationships with our mothers too, of just like, oh,
Yes.
oh, the
Yeah.
signs were not missed; they were ignored. But I like that
Yeah.
there's more language these days. But yeah, it was in small increments. My mom changed that conversation, shifted a lot.
What?
I'm thinking now about how much Black women mask. So there's a fashion academic intellect named Dario Calmese who is in New York, and he once wrote an amazing article where he looked at what causes schizophrenia. I know now that name in the DSM has like changed quite a bit, but when he wrote the
Mhm.
article, schizophrenia meant having multiple personalities. And he talks
Oh.
about how most Black people within most people who have schizophrenia, they had a childhood where they had a parent that was super giving and then withholding, super giving and then
Mm.
withholding. And so, because of that erraticness, the child was forced to split their identities. And he
Uh,
compares this to Black Americans in the sense that within white supremacy, there's we love your food, we love your dance, we love your music, but we hate you. We don't want to give you
we don't
jobs.
want
We love your hair, we love your hair, but we hate you. We want to wear your hair and claim it as our own. And so that constant back and forth. And so when you were talking, I was thinking about sometimes um, being Black in America, but in particular being a Black woman, can feel like a form of neurodivergence because you
Yeah.
do things like math, because there's ways that you get overstimulated by all the things that are going on in any moment when you're interacting
Mm.
with someone because you're a Black and a woman. And so that's so interesting to hear you talk about. When I hear you talk about your neurospiciness, even though I
Mm.
identify as neurotypical, I relate to it so much. Like I relate to it
Yeah.
so much.
There's a lot, yeah, I think like overlap, even just the code switching. Like you don't like as Black I remember talking to somebody and it was a well-meaning white person who was like, well, if you're code switching, can't you just stop? And I was like, babes, that's not how it works.
And also, you
Um,
don't want that. And also, deep down, you
yeah,
don't want that. You don't
you
want me to
don't want
talk to
to.
you the way I
How
want
I
to talk to
look
you.
at all.
Thank
You
you.
want me to unintentionally, subconsciously switch into the nice Black girl. And so even same, I'm like, I noticed that even in spaces when if I am masking even like any kind of neurodivergence, I'm like, I know the spaces that I have to be really nice and pleasant and even, and it's like, was it Get Out? I guess yeah, like Get Out. I think of even like Get Out when Lakeith Stanfield's character's kind
Yes.
of pushing through, or who was the woman when she's like, no, 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 no,
Oh,
like that
the
woman,
older Black
like,
woman. Yeah, 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 yeah,
yes,
yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
like, I want to be like, I want the quirks to fly and to be honest about how I'm feeling and also having to read the room like subconsciously and know like that's not really allowed in this space. And so yeah, it's been tough. I think it was tougher, and I found really good places to talk about it in workplaces for a good 2 years. I think something about my mom, and I guess I haven't really sat as much with that, but something about my mom as I'm just talking to you right now, having that conversation 2 years ago flipped things where I can't fake it as much anymore. Like where I could even 4 years ago, like I cannot fake it now.
And how did she receive
Mm.
it? Is she comfortable with you being
She
yourself?
was she I'd say yes and no. I was surprised because also my mom's a Cancer. So for the folks who know what that means, you know what that means. Like she actually was just like, oh. It wasn't because I was just bawling. I was like, I've always had like I've always just been a really expressive kid, and like you'd shame me for that, and
Mhm.
yeah, I don't realize. I was just realizing it with that breakup, how it was impacting relationships. Because then I feel like I gotta play small, and I gotta, if I'm noticing something, I'm like, oh, I can't tell them that I noticed that their energy shifted, because that's me
Yeah.
being dramatic. You know, like me reading
Yeah.
into much to things, me being in grown folks' business, like any of the things. It's just like I can't. But I want to say something. And I need
Yes.
to say something. Like I need to be that person that's not just going to go along with the pleasantries, the niceties, but like is actually going to say something. Like, yo, what's are we gonna talk about it? Or
Yeah. Also, when
yeah.
you're when you pick up on energy, sometimes it's hard to call it out because it's easy to deny. Like I've had
Mm,
experience where like I feel like the energy of someone is off, and I tried to
mm.
like have that conversation, and they can say no. What can I say? No, no, no. I can read
Yeah.
your energy. Like no.
Yeah. No, no, no,
Like
no. I had a dream about it though. Like I can't tell people I had a dream about them. I'm like, you can't lie to me.
I saw
And
this
then also,
number,
how do you
and
tell
that
people that you
means
can't lie to them? Yeah. No,
like
I saw that angel number, and then a crow flew by. And so obviously
it's so hard. It's so frustrating because
can't
I
say
know
that
that
out
I'm
loud.
right. But like people be like, "You're insane." I actually like it. I'm like, "No, you don't. No, you
You don't
don't."
understand. I was thinking about that song, and then it started playing, and it's not a coincidence. Yeah,
No.
Yeah, deeply felt that.
truly. Thank you.
Uh, Mustard, can we talk about you talking about being queer with your family? Because you and I have
Yeah.
had offline conversations about your birth mom and how she accepts that. Like, what comes up for you and
Yeah.
how you kind of owned your truth with your family?
Well, because I know that they have their feelings about it, it's not even my business. I don't they can think what they think, they feel how they feel. Um, for all they know,
Mm.
I don't know what they know. Honestly, I don't know what they think. I don't know if they know. I didn't tell them. I didn't come out to them, because it doesn't seem necessary.
Mm.
Um,
Can you say
so
more around that, Mustard? Because I think we don't talk. I think there's a badge of honor that's attached to coming out, even when it's unsafe for the person coming out. And so I'd love for you to just contextualize how you've decided within yourself that coming out is not your priority with your family.
yeah, well, they're not priority to me. So that I think
Mm.
that's a major component. I think usually the issue is people are like locked in with their family. They're like, this is my best friend, but then they're hiding this like huge part of themselves. And then it becomes like weird. So like I've been rejected when someone I was dating because they're like, you're not out to your family. Like I'm not about to be hidden. But I'm like, hidden from who? I live
Right.
alone. I don't see these people. They have no role in my life. So what do you mean?
Anyone who sees us is going to know we are together. Right.
Exactly. So like I don't hang out with my family. I'm not like doing anything. Like we're not close. They don't know what's going on in my life. They don't have my address. They don't have information about me. So for them to know who I'm dating, that don't make sense. That don't
Mm.
make sense. They don't know what I'm doing today. They probably don't know what I do for work. Like they might, but
Mm.
I think there's already a level of like they don't have that level of access to me to even know day-to-day things, let alone something that's like personal or something I know they're gonna disagree with. Like there's no reason I think for the contempt or like any negativity truly around it where I'm
Mm.
like they don't play a large role in my life anyway. And it just wouldn't make sense to do that for me. But I did tell my birth mom, and I told her over the phone because I was like going to visit her, and my partner was gonna like hop in to see my hometown, the place where I was born but didn't stay for
Mm.
more than 24 hours. I was like, oh, here, I can show you this place. And so I was like, hey, like I have something to tell you. You can meet my partner, but first I have to tell you my partner is like a woman. And she was just like like on the phone, just like shocked. She was like, I'm not surprised, but I'm disappointed. And I'm like, okay. But then she was also like, I'll meet them, and like sure, like invited us over, made us dinner, and like did all this,
Mm.
but like also has all these, I guess, negative feelings about it at the same time. So
Could
that
you
was
tell? Could you tell when you? I know she was being hospitable, but could you tell that she was uncomfortable while you were
no,
there?
she didn't act any differently than
Okay,
I think
good.
she would have. Um, and maybe it's the same way where I'm like, a part of me is like, oof, like, is this wrong? Maybe she's having that same thing where she's like, I accept you, but also, like, I don't know.
Mm.
Mm.
I'm wondering
Oh,
if maybe
deep. That's deep.
Mm.
I just want want to amplify that because that's so deep. So what you just said is the dissonance that you feel within yourself might be a reflection of the dissonance. Like you both might be having that same dissonance, so you
Yeah.
don't judge her for it. That's deep. Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah. So I think it's that because she even was like, well, how do you reconcile that with like your religious beliefs? I was like, oof, it hasn't been reconciled. Like I don't have an answer for that. And so yeah, so I'm not, it wasn't like a huge thing, but we're also not that close. It's kind of the same thing where it's like I can tell her and my life will not be upended if she's like, I hate you, like never want to talk to you again. And it's the same with all my other family. So I'm like, I can do this and they could be like, this is wrong, and I could be like, bye, but also like nothing has changed. So there's that. And so yeah, I think she just has that weird thing where she's like, oh, like I want to be in your life and blah blah blah, but also like I don't like this part. But it doesn't come up very often because she's not around, and so it doesn't really matter.
So you and I have talked about this offline, but when I was working on the episode, I remember getting very, very angry and having to walk away from my laptop. And I think the reason why I was triggered by your birth mom's response is that I often feel as a Black woman that people hold me to a standard that they don't hold themselves to, right? And so, like, her being uncomfortable with you being queer is rooted in her being deeply religious, but she also had a child out of wedlock and gave that child up, right? And so, like, I just feel like often as a Black woman, when I see what people expect me, I'm like, but you're in a glass house. Like, you throwing rocks here. If I throw it back, your whole foundation is crumbling. Like, it's just so, I do think that there is such a high standard. And I think part of why I'm triggered, if I'm honest, is because I hold myself to that standard. And sometimes it's just too high and it's so unnecessary and it's not equitable. And like, why do I care what those people think? Because they're not perfect either, right? And I do think we do have a culture, especially with Black moms, to like tell you what they think, their opinion on everything. And I think what I love about what you're saying, Mustard, is part of healing enough to honor yourself is putting the right amount of importance on the people in your life. And I do think when you're unhealed, you want to be everything for everybody, especially as a Black woman. But part of being a healed Black woman is being like, they get 10%, and I'm good with that. Like, I'm not going to be everything to them because they're not giving me everything. Like, I'm going to match your 10 with my 10 versus when I was unhealed, I was giving you 150 to compensate for your 50, right? And so I think that's just like really, really powerful and important. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
We have about 5 minutes. We have a hard stop of 4 minutes. So I want to wrap up. Both of you have come into yourself, your intersectionality, your identities. You see how they're strengths, you see how they're benefits. And we talked a little bit earlier that this is almost like a daily choice you have to make, that it's not like, I'm healed, I will no longer overgive, I will no longer overwork, I will no longer perform, I will no longer be a perfectionist. Like those things creep in every day. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit on your daily practice or your weekly practice or your monthly practice on how you come back to yourself, because you know what it's like to be out of alignment with yourself. And you both fought really hard to get in alignment with yourself. Can we talk a little bit about your maintenance process? Because I think we see life as a movie where it's like once you get to the end, like, we got this. And then in reality, the next day, you might have to build yourself up all over again. So can you share with anyone watching how you get back and how you prioritize staying in alignment with yourself?
A lot of it, I'll try to make it brief. A lot of it is, and this may sound cliche, but I really do spend a lot of time in nature and just like
Great.
being with the birds. Like it's one of the, I see memes all the time where it's like, oh yeah, I went on a walk and the stupid nature walk actually did it. Like
Yeah.
it did. I needed to be, and like I needed to hug a tree. That's a big thing. And then just also like having my people and like having my community is really important. And folks that I can be that like not do the, I mean, the friend I was just on the phone, FaceTiming earlier today, like one of my best friends, and she's another one where you can just sit there and talk about grief and neither of us is trying to fix it. It's like, is yours showing up as irritability today? Yeah, girl.
Love it.
You know, and it's so having those types of authentic conversations that like don't need fixing. And then having a really robust like dance and music practice is, I gotta move it through my body. Like it has to, all the emotions sit somewhere in my body and we gotta just move them. I heard an activist back in DC, when I used to live in DC, had said that twerking supports your root chakra.
The people say it. The people
That
say it.
it's bound by the drums too. So like just move, like any time I can get to like an Afro-Caribbean, West African dance class, but also just speaking of Megan and like taking it some time off, like just twerking to some Megan in my living room
Yeah.
that's care too. So
Yes. I
yeah.
love it.
Very nice. I've recently gone to do the whole nature stuff. I live around.
And
a lot
we're
of
in New
nature.
York. We all live in New York. And there's
Yes.
nature in New York. Because some of you are watching and you're like, what? Yes, there's nature in New
I'm
York.
going to a bird watching thing this Sunday.
Talk
Like, yeah.
about it.
Mhm.
Yep.
Nice.
I'll drop the link. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I live near the botanical garden in the Bronx.
Oh, I love it.
Like I could walk there. I've walked there. So I walked there the other day, and so I'm enjoying that. But usually, just silence will do it for me. I know that's difficult for a lot of people, like neurodivergent people. May not silence is not working. There's a lot going on, but silence works for me. I sit in silence if I drive in silence. So if I feel like I would say dysregulated or I'm like, oh, this person I'm overstimulated. I drove back home today, 30 minutes silence, and it was just nice. I had to think all my thoughts and I clear my mind, and then it's like I feel great now. So silence just will do it for me.
I love it. I
Nice.
love it. I want to thank you both so much. We only touched on maybe 30-40% of what was in the episode. So I do really encourage you, if you haven't, just look for Michaela Unmuted on all podcast platforms. This is episode number 3. Lysandra, do you want to promote your consultant business, your consultancy?
Yeah. If folks are looking for communications consulting, I also do intimacy, coordination, choreography, a little bit of coaching. I don't always do coach because that's like that direct service bit. But in terms of, any kind of creative writing, consulting, communications, call me, hit me up. I'm Lysandra Janae on like everything, lysandrajanae.com and Lysandra Janae on Instagram. So
Text me your handles and I'll make sure to add it to the description underneath
Okay.
this episode. Yeah, perfect.
Perfect.
Mishy or Mustard, do you want to share anything? You don't have to if you don't want to.
I know there's so many things I get involved with. I am a photographer. I don't do photography all the time, but I do random events. I did a comedy show like 2 weeks ago. So my Instagram is msimsphoto. Yeah, you can DM me or something if you're looking for photos. I don't update it as much because they're basically off social media, but I check it sometimes and I will try to do that. Yes, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Amazing. For those of you who joined, thank you so much for watching it. If you watched it after the live, thank you for checking it out. My handles everywhere are Michaela Unmuted. There is a new episode dropping this Wednesday, so please do check that out. And also this episode, I'll release audio on the podcast platform if you want to listen to it while you walk in nature or in silence, whatever you decide. But thank you to everyone for being here. Thanks to the two of you. I absolutely adore you. It was an honor to tell your story, and it was an honor to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Hold on, I'm gonna end this video. There we go.